His constituents want fair elections, secure borders, and voter IDs, even if it means a government shutdown. Republican Texas Congressman Chip Roy joins us now. Congressman, great to see you. Well, I don't know if most Americans want a government shutdown, but they do definitely want voter ID. A Pew Research poll recently showed that 81% of Americans from both sides, both parties, want a photo ID, a government-issued photo ID. Only 2.2% of Democrat congressmen voted for one. I'm wondering, don't Democrats have a problem going against 81% of Americans?
Yeah, you would think so, David. Great to be on the show. I mean, obviously, we did have 5 Democrats who broke with us, or broke with Democrats and joined with us in July to pass the SAVE Act, which, by the way, is really important because it would require and guarantee that we could actually check documentary proof of citizenship, which right now is prohibited under federal law. Those people need to understand that. Right now, states cannot do it. The courts have applied and said, you know what, Arizona, you can't do it. Arizona has 2 different systems. So we want to protect election integrity and make sure only American citizens vote. But there's another issue here. Democrats laid down a gauntlet today. They said under no circumstances were they going to accept any kind of funding bill that didn't expire in December. Now, why would that be, David? Could it be because they want the Christmas recess in a lame duck to try to jam through a big Ukraine bill, a big spending bill, and to use it as a Christmas tree to lard it up with a bunch of crap the American people don't want? That's what they want, and that's why we have rampant inflation. We can win on this issue because we're the party that's going to fight inflation by getting spending down, by freezing spending until March, and making sure that only American citizens vote, while we watch all of these people come into our country, kill Americans, and migrants that are getting lost in a system because this administration cares more about politics than people.
But wouldn't you look bad going into an election with a government shutdown looming?
Well, let me just be very clear. We are putting forward a bill today that would fund government for 6 full months into March and would guarantee that only citizens vote, which 80% of Americans support. So if there's a shutdown, then who would be shutting it down? Democrats. Our job is to put forward legislation that the American people support. And to be clear, I have conservative colleagues in the Freedom Caucus and otherwise who don't like this because they don't like CRs. They want us to do 12 appropriations bills. You know what? I agree with them, but we've only passed 5 because we're in, juggernauts and we have disagreements with our Democrat colleagues. So let's figure out right now how we can guarantee that we freeze spending and ensure the integrity of our elections. Look, we've had 5.5 million people released into the United States by this administration, 2 million gotaways. We have people dying like Jocelyn Nungare in Texas, Laken Riley in Georgia. We had a Peruvian who killed 23 people in Peru who was just apprehended in Buffalo. We're in danger, and they're voting. Texas just cleaned off 6,500 people off their rolls. Virginia just cleaned off 6,300
people. Well, with all that going
on,
by the way, Congressman, with all that going on that you mentioned correctly, people are wondering why you guys were off for a month, but that's a whole other issue. I quickly want to get to Afghanistan. I quickly want to get to the withdrawal because Republicans released this scathing report on exactly how it was carried out. Now, it was a 350-page report, a lot of details about the Doha Agreement, et cetera, but the single issue in most people's mind is giving up Bagram Air Force Base. And apparently the president did that on his own against the advice of many of his top generals. Wasn't that the key issue that led to the disaster, that led to the death of 13 of our troops?
Yeah, there's no questions. The radical progressive Democrats that are over at the White House, including, by the way, people in the brass at the Pentagon, they failed the American people when they walked out of Afghanistan and walked away from Bagram. All of those lives that were lost, all of those great servicemen and women who fought and gave the last full measure of devotion, or who are injured, or who are back home, who are suffering, they did so we could try to preserve a presence over there, and Bagram was the key presence. We should not have done that. And by the way, the same Secretary of Defense who was in charge then, he's telling us right now, just do a CR into December. Again, David, why would that be? I want everybody to understand the same people that are abandoning our country and abandoned Bagram and abandoning securing the border, they're the same people who want to continue to fund government only to December so they can force a disaster upon the American people with a Christmas tree omnibus big spending bill with more funding for Ukraine instead of standing up for the American people.
Congressman Roy, I wish we had more time, but we got to leave it at that. Good to see you. Thank you very much for being here.
David.
Coming up, Big Tech back on trial.